Welcome to REST, which stands for Resiliency and Empowerment Seminar today. I am your host, and I am the founder of GAN Strategic Solutions, where we operate at the intersection of business and human behavior. This show highlights the leaders of small, mid-sized businesses as well as nonprofits. We hear about the leaders' journey as well as how they are being resilient in these particularly challenging times. I'm so delighted today to have my guest, Jackie Harounian. Jackie is a partner at Wisselman, Harounian Associates. She has advanced degrees in both law and behavioral forensic psychology, and with that, it provides her a unique ability to resolve divorce disputes and family conflicts in an interdisciplinary and holistic manner to parenting dynamics and found to be very effective. She is rated AV Preeminent 2020, which is the highest rating for ethics and professionalism by Martindale-Hubbell. Her firm has been recognized by U.S. News and World Report as a top 20 firm in 2020, and Jackie has twice been selected to the top 50 women lawyers in New York by Super Lawyers, the highest and most prestigious recognition. She currently serves on the board of directors of and is the chair of the Domestic Violence and Matrimonial Committees of the Nassau County Women's Bar Association. And she's involved charitably in a number of things. Her experience has encompassed over 20 years as a trial attorney, and I know her through our community involvement together over the years. So I really am excited for Jackie to share her story today. So welcome, Jackie.
Thank you so much, Susan. I've been looking forward to our talk today, and I'm a member of your fan club. You really inspire me, and the way you set up everything up till today, I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're so welcome. It's my pleasure. So Jackie, can you take us back to the early days? How did this psychology background with law mix into what you're doing today?
So, it's not a secret that family law really is at least 50% psychology and maybe even social work. There is a very big degree of overlap between relationships, mental health, just the economics, the economy of a family, and how all of that either leads to conflict or leads to a success in a relationship. And I've always been interested in that. And it started out school. I was very young. I was 20, became a mom when I was 21, and realized very quickly that I wanted to continue my education, and the stay-at-home mom life full-time was not for me. And luckily, I had a very supportive spouse who I'm still married to 30 years later, and now we have 4 children. And from the very beginning, I realized that family law was a field that was interesting. The gender roles and custody law and the transition of how the laws have changed from fault grounds to no fault. I've always had that interest in the subject area, and I have maintained that interest, and it's been now 25 years since my law school days. So it's an interesting field and a difficult field and a challenging field, but with a lot of rewards.
I could imagine, which brings me to a question about how do you stay so positive in situations where it could be negative? It's a very heavy area of the law that you work in.
My main forte is in resolving cases, and I can always see the finish line when I'm with my clients and we work together. And once I know what their goals are and when I know what their real main priorities are, I have a mindset that's very strategic and I can get them there. But again, there are some factors I can't control. Certainly the court system, the judge, opposing counsel. What I can control is my own strategy, my own willingness to reach out to the other side and constantly try to foster an agreement or at least an open line of communication. And I can be bossy and a little pushy with my clients too. I am constantly coaching them on how to take the high road, on how to let go and make concessions on certain things. My goal is always to get them to the end of the process, hopefully with their dignity intact, hopefully with some money still in the bank. My feeling is the sooner a case is over, the better it is. And that's where my referrals come from. That's how our firm has grown to this point over the past 25 years. Incidentally, I've been with the same law firm since law school. My partner is Jerry Wisselman. We now have a team of 9 lawyers and mediators. And knock wood, I'm knocking my conference room desk. We've had a very good long run, and a lot of it has to do with that feeling that we owe a responsibility to our clients to get them to the end of the process, not to burn through their retainer and then kind of let them fend for themselves. So one of the most important things and one of the most challenging things is to really get the clients to understand that there's a budget and legal fees run out, and that their strategy has to match the budget, and it has to match their goals. And a lot of times it means bringing them down to earth about what's realistic. What their friend got or what their aunt got 10 years ago is not what's going to go on today. The laws have changed very dramatically. And the more I can counsel clients out of court, explain to them what's realistic, then they're going to get a better outcome, because it really is very much an education process. And a lot of the education I do has to do with the importance of co-parenting. And a lot of it also is maybe considering processes like mediation and friendlier processes out of court, as opposed to filing motions or going to court, which really not good in many cases.
Yes.
Sometimes necessary.
Absolutely. I'm going to pick up on some things you said about control. It resonated with me, especially during this time, because you navigate people for a living through uncertainty. And now we're in an uncertain time that you're navigating people through more uncertainty. So what do you do to provide that path and give people their sense of control back and a sense of knowing?
Right. Very important, because when I'm coming into a divorce case, I don't really know my client all that well. I certainly don't know their spouse that well. I don't know some of the challenges that go on economically in the family or with the children. But the client knows the strengths and weaknesses of their own case, and they need to learn the things that they can control, what is within their own control. Certainly to organize their finances, to bring information to their attorney, to have realistic goals and to discuss those with their attorney, to try to de-escalate issues involving their children if possible, to create a budget and work within that budget, and find ways to plan a future. So a lot of what I do has to do with getting through short-term goals for today, make a plan for today, but have protection for tomorrow. A lot of that is within the client's control. And it's the clients I find that are really the most in the dark about their finances, or really don't have skills or a career to fall back on. They are the ones that are going to sometimes have the most difficult experience, because they really aren't in control very much. They're dependent on their spouse. They're feeling very uncertain about their future. And really right now, there's a lot of things that are up in the air. And this has caused stress on parents and stress on individuals that are going through separation and divorce. The only silver lining that seems to be emerging, or actually two right now, locally on Long Island, is the housing market is definitely getting a bump up, because so many people are moving out from the city, and borrowing rates and people have to recognize, work with them, and try to reach a point where they can make a consensus with that is the only way out of it. The only way out of a divorce process is either with a settlement or with a trial. Those are literally the only two ways out. And what people need to understand, because it's such a part of, I guess, American divorce fantasy, that there's going to be a trial and the judge is going to hear you and you're going to have your day in court and everything is going to come out your way. And by the way, all your legal fees are going to be paid by the other side. That is so far from the reality that it's dangerous for people to assume that that is going to be their way out. The way out is going to be a settlement for 97% of people that go through divorce litigation. So when you know that, wouldn't you rather that settlement be earlier on, when you have more control, when you haven't spent $50,000 on legal fees, as opposed to right before trial at the 11th hour, when you're already broke and stressed out and you're forced into a settlement? People need to realize how infrequently it's the judge that makes the decision. It's almost always the parties with their lawyers, and it's important to recognize that. And sadly enough, sometimes I go to court and it's people that have run out of money and they're representing themselves. That is really a tragic outcome, because you're not going to get a best result that way. So better to early on in the case, see what you can resolve. See if you can create a dialogue with your spouse, or at least with the attorneys, and say, I want to settle this case. I want to resolve it. How can I do that? How can we settle something? People have that control, and that is the number one control, is to tell their lawyers, I don't want to fight. I'd rather resolve it. It works. The more you talk about settlement, the more you think about settlement, the more likely it is to happen. So it's important.
So it's what I'm hearing from you is you really provide that pathway and give the client the option of which way do they want to go,
Correct.
and bring them the education to say, this is what's going to be involved if you go down the litigation route. This is what's going to be involved if you go down the settlement route, and this is your life. What's your path? And that's very empowering.
It's important for people to know the litigation route can take 3 to 4 to 5 years. We have cases in our office that are really that lengthy. It's very easy, actually, to delay cases. We all know litigation, you can get an adjournment, you can kick the can down the road. All of a sudden, someone has a new lawyer. Next thing you know, it's even a new judge. Now, because of COVID, the court system is really working at very low capacity right now. So delays are built into the system. So it might feel like you're winning because you're delaying. You might be hurting the other side with the delay. But all you're doing is postponing the inevitable. And going back to the psychology side of it, it's not healthy to stay in a divorce matter longer than necessary. It's not healthy to put your life on hold. It's better to resolve it in a fair way. Accept your lawyer's advice. Accept that there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. These are the assets. This is the income. This is what we have to work with. And close the door and move on to the next chapter of your life. And one of the rewards of my practice that really keeps me engaged is that I meet with clients and I hear from clients every day that have moved on to a happier next chapter. And sometimes it's a remarriage. Sometimes it's a new job. Sometimes they're by themselves, but they're finally living life on their own terms. A lot of times it's men and women that have been in very unhealthy relationships because of domestic violence or substance abuse. And sometimes it's the wife that's drinking or using substances or who's mentally ill. Sometimes it's the husband who's violent or mentally ill or whatever it is. There is a huge liberation that occurs when you're out of that. And even if you really don't have the same lifestyle, that's something money can't buy. Peace of mind, having the freedom to really make your own decisions on a day-to-day basis. You have to finalize the case, though, to get to that next chapter. And I'm all about that. Let's move ahead. Let's get this done. I'm very bottom line oriented. And the clients know that when they hire me, I'm going to push the settlement. I'm going to get it done if I can. There are some cases that just need to go before the court. Those are going to be more expensive cases, more stressful cases. Sometimes it's necessary, and we have the capability here to do that.
So tell me about self-care. Like, how do you keep healthy so that you could be there for others and maintain their health, so to speak?
That's a very good question, and certainly something that I would have answered very differently 6 months ago. One of the very huge changes in law practice and court practice right now for attorneys is that our day is very different than it used to be. First of all, there's no more traveling to court. There's no more waiting in court. Court conferences and arguments before the judges are now almost like appointment based. So it's much easier to plan the day. A lot of it is on Zoom and Skype, which, you can reach your point where it's like you're zoomed out, but there's no question that it's a less stressful practice in many, many ways. And I have much more free time in the morning and in the evening because I'm not doing networking or going to events. And some of those are social events the way I did 6 months ago. I know you and I, a year or two ago, we had breakfast and it was 8 o'clock in the morning and we had a business breakfast and discussion. And I used to do that all the time. And I love doing it. It really did help me enjoy my practice more. But I don't know that I would be in such a hurry to do those things again. Not necessarily because of health concerns or catching a virus, but the technology has made it so that you don't need to run around quite so much. So the practice is very different. And for the first time in many years, I have a regular exercise routine. I definitely am getting more sleep than before, spending much more time with my husband and my children than ever before. A little bit of fighting too, not going to deny that, but more family time and more quality family time. And there's a lot that's good in the new schedule for attorneys and office work, which I really appreciate.
That's wonderful. So that brings me to a question about resiliency. Um, Talk more about how you're being resilient during these times.
So resilience is really one of the key indicators to how people recover from setbacks. And I've learned so much from my clients in this regard. And a lot of it is based on psychology, which I've studied. One of the things I studied was something called victimology. And it's how some people fall into the victim mindset and others avoid that mindset. And obviously it's better not to stay in that victim mindset for longer than necessary. Um, Resilience has to do with how you bounce back from challenges, whether they're COVID related or divorce related or a business reversal, a job loss, a relationship disruption. So there are people that bounce back quickly. And by quickly, my benchmark is usually like within a year, they're back trending in a positive direction. And they have a positive outlook for the most part. And I would say 80% of my clients fall into that category. They are able to recover from a loss. And sometimes it's the loss of a parent or the loss of a marriage. They have that resiliency in their mind. And then there are others, and it's 10% or around there that really never recover, that have that victim mindset. Everything is happening to them. No amount of support is going to make them happy. They're never going to find work or even be able to go look for work because they're just not meant to do that. It's a very, very unfortunately self-destructive frame of mind. And if a year or two beyond the catastrophe or the loss, if people can't dig themselves out, to me, that's a sign that they need professional help. And I mean, beyond just social media and support groups and on their own, they need to probably meet with a counselor that's skilled enough to really shake them loose from this sense that, they're a victim of their circumstances. Because speaking from my own field, divorce really is a chance to restart. It's a chance at a new beginning. And then what you find is that for some people, it really never was about their spouse or their marriage. It really was about them. And when they end up by themselves, or maybe even in a new relationship, it's still about them. It's still their own issues that they need to seek help for. And, fortunately for myself, and I hope for you, most of us have some support system, siblings, friends, a spouse, someone that can say, listen, you need to look in the mirror yourself. It's not really someone else. But for others, some people don't have a support system. And they don't really have anyone because for whatever reason, they've managed to alienate a lot of people. And then they lose their spouse or even their children. I mean, a lot of people that are estranged from their own children for years and years. And it's very sad. But for sure, it's something that they played a role in. And relationships can be repaired, especially with children. Again, not always. There's some very sad cases where there really is no repair possible. But it's important to take ownership of what your issues are, and to strengthen yourself if possible from a setback. And most of the time, I do see people actually get stronger after a big setback. And we're going to see it with COVID also. We're going to see people that change their careers or change relationships or relocate and bounce back in ways that you couldn't even imagine. And a lot of it comes from adversity. So I have seen that, and I've seen it in my own life for sure. Adversity strengthens character in many, many ways.
So, how would you say that you empower your clients then?
The best way to empower clients that are going through separation and divorce is to explain to them that it's a process, that it's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The worst part actually is the middle, because you can almost feel like it's an endless process, especially you have a case with a lot of discovery and depositions, and you're in court. It really can feel like, oh my God, will this ever end? But almost every case, virtually every case, does reach an end. Uh, Everyone has a right to end their marriage in New York State, and in every state. Every state has no fault divorce. I empower my clients, men and women, by explaining to them that the laws are actually pretty fair these days. The laws are gender neutral. Most parents get joint custody. Most support orders are based on income, and most of that usually can be documented. In the cases that can't, that's a special challenge. There is a lot of predictability now in divorce law, and I can really explain to my clients what they can expect, which makes it easier to resolve cases out of court, because if you kind of know the range and the ballpark of what's going to happen, that gives you the confidence to resolve a case out of court, because why would you go to court if you really know how it's going to go? Again, there are some exceptions. Sometimes it's necessary, but clients that know what's going to happen and have a lawyer that's going to explain it to them, and is going to be responsive to them when they need it, even if it's at night or on the weekends, they do feel empowered. They feel more secure. And that's a good thing. And I do find that that's a rewarding aspect to what I do. And where a lot of my referrals come from is because people know it's not about making money on the case for me. It's actually getting it to the end. So hopefully that client will go out there and say, I did a great job, and hopefully help me grow my practice, which is very important to me.
So, tell me about along the way, have you had mentors and people who have been advocates for you, or sponsors as they're known? Tell us about that.
So as I mentioned, my entire legal career has been with one law firm, and I've been working with Jerry Wisselman since I was in my early 20s. So there's no question that he has probably shaped my career more than anyone else. These days, most of my mentors I find are in the Nassau County Women's Bar. I'm on the board. I've been involved with this group at the Bar Association for a while, and I find it very, very exciting and inspiring to see other women lawyers and judges that set aside time from their own practices to really do good works for the community at large. And we do a lot of amazing things. A lot of it is collaborations with other bar associations, for other women's groups, for social justice issues. There are so many opportunities now to uplift other people that really need it. And there is a lot of mentoring that goes on at the Women's Bar. A lot of law students, a lot of young lawyers, a lot of older lawyers. And there is a sense of collaboration and helping one another. And it's had some very excellent leadership. It's not easy to lead a women's organization. I have been part of others that, let's just say, that energy, that the chemistry is not there. When you're in a great group, a great professional group, or a women's group, when it's going well, you can feel it. There's a certain momentum. It's nice to be part of it. And, I have 2 daughters and 2 sons. And I often tell my daughters, that it's very exciting that they're really poised to be part of a very different set of expectations and opportunities for both men and women. They were always there, but now they're definitely being recognized in ways that weren't there before. And so it's nice to be part of that.
Exciting. So, in wrapping up our conversation, what would you like people to remember about our conversation today?
Well, I mean, you are part of women's leadership and coaching, and in many ways, our practice areas are similar in the sense that you're trying to give direction to different groups of people that are maybe at a crossroads. And that is exactly what I do also. And so I think that is something that we have in common. It's something that I'll remember about our conversation, that, we are at a very pivotal time in our world. There's a lot of crisis, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we are all trying to navigate through it as best we can with our careers. And here we are on Zoom having a conversation that probably a few months ago we'd be trying to do, with a live audience, and now we're adapting to new opportunities. And so uh, it's great to be part of it, and I'm very hopeful about the future for women leaders and for all leaders. I mean, it's a great time, and I'm fortunate enough to have the experience now under my belt where I'm comfortable using the term that I'm a leader in my own field, and looking forward to motivating and helping other people that follow.
Well, I've looked up to you as a leader for a long time. So, you've been there, even though you might not have given yourself that title. Uh, so, Jackie, how can people find you? Because I definitely want them to find you.
Thank you so much. So I'm extremely active on LinkedIn. That's where I see you all the time. So LinkedIn, it's Jacqueline Harounian. My website is lawjaw.com. That's LAWJAW.com. I'm also pretty active on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Long Island Family Law and Mediation. And on that group, I post a lot of topics related to psychology, related to law, changes in the law, and a lot of tips and tools regarding how to resolve conflict, because that's sort of an obsession of mine. I really do believe in marriage. I've been married a long time. I happen to come from a very traditional community, Middle Eastern community, where marriage is really something to aspire to and to preserve and protect. And I really do believe that. So I believe that it's also important to neutralize and de-escalate conflict in the early stages, whether it's a marital relationship, whether it's among friends, co-workers. We need less conflict in our world, and I think women are uniquely capable of helping bring people together, helping them connect with empathy, and just willing to go across the aisle and make a connection. And I love to be part of that energy. And so I hope that people will connect with me. If there's any opportunities to work together or you need advice, I always have a free consultation, and I'm easy to reach if people need help.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie, for your generosity, and I'm going to repeat your contact information. So, you can find Jackie on LinkedIn as Jacqueline Harounian. Her website is lawjaw.com. You can also find her on Facebook under the Long Island Family Law and Mediation, where she has a number of resources there. And you heard that you can reach out to her for a free consultation as well. And I love that you put out all the feminine energy around connection, empathy, and collaboration. So I would leave that with our audience today to embrace that energy and to look at resolving conflicts, neutralizing conflicts in your life. So thank you, Jackie, and thanks to our audience. Until the next conversation.